Magneto vs. Tetsuo was dropped, and what did I think of it? Why do I start almost every review like that as if you guys don't know what the video is about and what the video is about? Going into this, I was one of the few people who was more interested in Magneto's side. While I do like Akira, it has been a long time since I've seen it, and it's basically a distant memory at this point. And while I do always like new series and Tetsuo is cool, Magneto's like one of the big three villains in all of Marvel, and I really like him in basically any incarnation. Comics, cartoons, both movie versions. Even in movies I dislike, such as Apocalypse, I think Magneto himself has done well. So I had a good deal of investment coming in for Magneto himself. Despite that, when it comes to the analysis, I was a bit uninterested in Magneto's overall. It wasn't bad at all, but I felt like there wasn't really much. I don't know. It did feel a bit short, which might just be because they have to make it a bit short because Tetsuo's only got so much to go over, and you gotta have to leave stuff out for Magneto unless you want to make it just way too imbalanced in terms of who gets more time. It's hard to explain, but it's not really a deal breaker. I don't know. The story felt a bit. I don't know. It was still good, and I enjoyed it. I like them going into this year extended Magneto's variety because, honestly, the amount of people who think Magneto's powers are just ferromagnetic is absurd. It's got to be like at least 9 million people. Don't ask where the number came from. Tetsuo's, however, was a lot more captivating. I thought the jokes were better, mostly. The cutaway was less predictably unfunny, the delivery of the story felt more natural and passionate, and it really felt like the writer put their all into it. Which he did, because he's the GOAT. I just really enjoyed this analysis far more. Which, yes, might have to do with the fact that, while I like Magneto a lot, I am also constantly looking at comic panels that have the exact same art style as 90% of other Marvel character comic panels. They all end up looking the same. Films and TV shows that I've already seen a ton of Death Battle in the past are there as well. There's nothing particularly new or special outside of when they're explaining the science behind magnetic fields, which is the highlight of Magneto's, is the science behind it. And you're not looking at comic panels for that, so that might be it. Tetsuo's analysis was just really good, but let's talk about that fight. I didn't notice the first few watches, but my god, does Magneto's cape look like shit here. It's fuzzy, it's not in the right place compared to his other scenes, it just looks off. But anyway, for the most part, the animation remains really solid throughout this fight. My biggest flaw here is really not the fault of the Death Battle episode, the writing, animating, anything. It's just that seeing them throw shit back and forth at each other is really underwhelming and lame, and I know why. That's how they fight. It's not Death Battle's fault that throwing stuff with your mind is not the most exciting power when paired against someone who also does that. It's fine. I just don't find it that interesting, and it's just because of the characters. It's the equivalent of, like, throwing combos back and forth in a fighting game matchup, but by virtue of what this is, it's naturally less creative and it's just throw shit. This hand-drawn bit's nice though. Tetsuo loses his arm, which feels a bit weird, mostly because the stuff Magneto throws just doesn't come across as moving very fast to me. I don't know, it just feels odd that Tetsuo couldn't avoid this, especially with how slow Tetsuo is moving to dodge what's already coming at him. But anyway, Tetsuo makes himself an arm, and we get this really weird shot of Magneto throwing a building, which then gives us this really cool shot of Tetsuo stopping it, and later the even cooler shot of Magneto pulling the building back towards it to hit Tetsuo again. It does make him seem oddly infatuated with this building, but I like it, so fuck off. Tetsuo Dragon Ball combos Magneto, and we get a genuinely really cool shot of their punches clashing and creating a massive field of red and purple energy around the planet. It's like the Earth became more full of my two favorite colors. I mean, what's there to complain about here? Though it is a little bit weird that after this impact, they cut straight to Magneto's helmet falling. I don't know, it just feels like a shot is missing. But we do get it breaking, and Tetsuo choking Magneto, and this looks really good. The hand-drawn stuff is really nice to look at, and the body horror-esque abilities of Tetsuo really come to shine on Magneto's stupid face. Magneto then makes Tetsuo realize just how stupid he was getting a metal arm against Magneto, and... Okay, so far, this animation has been good, but nothing too special. Like, it's a generally solid animation with good writing and choreography that wasn't too standout, but it's not bad in the slightest. It has problems, but they're very small compared to the good stuff. It's just a few things that look a bit off. What makes this episode stand out, though, is what comes next. Tetsuo's mutation is done perfectly, being beyond disgusting and horrific and even taking back Magneto. The shots leading up to the full body one do a great job to get across the horror aspects. It's fantastic, and I love the sickening squishy sound design of the eye opening up and looking around. We then get a great character moment of Tetsuo going into Magneto's mind and asking to be helped. The pain of his mutation going too much and him wanting to be put out of his misery. Though he's also conflicted, as another part of his mind is saying, welcome to die. Don't think I didn't catch that. He says, welcome to, stops, and then screams, die. Funny reference and done in a way that makes sense, as Tetsuo is losing his fucking mind. and also it's not too distracting because the delivery of the reference is such that people who get the reference will not pick it up immediately because there's a big pause there, and also people who don't get the reference will not feel like they're missing any context because welcome to die makes sense in this situation. Like, he's losing his fucking mind. You think he's going to care about proper grammar? Magneto then gets grabbed and pulls the iron out of his own blood on the floor that was set up earlier to make fucking Mega Man's neutral special, and has a brief flying saw blade battle against the fleshy gooey monster. That's fucking awesome. It's fucking disgusting, but it's awesome. And it's just really cool in every regard. It's a great usage of Chekhov's gun and the innate creativity of Magneto's abilities when used at their best. Tetsuo then starts turning into the Big Bang explosion, which Magneto fucking catches in his bare goddamn hands. He laments the pain Tetsuo must be in, witnessing it happen before him, and grants Tetsuo that mercy, slicing him in two with his own energy. Tetsuo jumps out of his own fleshy form, and Magneto ends his life. Tetsuo is only able to say thank you before he is finished, his brain fried instantly. Free of pain, free of suffering, free from his own twisted mutations at last, as the final remnants of his agony vanish. Magneto responds to the fallen as respectfully as he can, and leaves. The first 2/3 of this fight are good, but it's the final third that elevates it to great. This gives me again more of what I want from Death Battle, that feeling of characters, making it feel like we're not just watching their power sets back and forth, but actual characters with histories, personalities, and motivations beyond just this 3-minute fight, beyond just wanting to kill the other guy and nothing else. Like, that's what I say. Nobody wants a character in Death Battle solely for their power set. If you want a power set, just go with Beyonder or Thought Robot. They have every power you could want. They could do any animation you want in terms of just power sets. So people want characters in Death Battle for their character. And everyone who wanted Magneto in Death Battle, like me, or Tetsuo, like most other people I know, got exactly that. Not their power sets, but their characters. Everything here sells me on what's happening perfectly. From the great animation that gets across the disgusting nature of Tetsuo's mutation perfectly, as well as the blinding light and power of his Big Bang energy explosion, to the amazing writing that is paced as best you can get within the natural limitations of Death Battle's not too long fights, to the voice acting. Alistair from Has Been Hotel does a great job as Magneto, getting across his tranquil fury, his stoic sorrow, and his prideful arrogance perfectly with each line. Nothing stands out as a bad take from him. Joshua Waters also does a good job with Tetsuo, making him sound basically as he should and really selling his anger when it was needed. But the way they delivered the help me is probably the standout for me. There's just a real feeling of that desperation and fear of what Tetsuo is becoming that really works. I also like Magneto's eyes in this fight. That's such a weird sentence. Outside of hand-drawn bits that make sense for this anyway, Magneto often comes across with no eyes or irises lacking pupils, which is just how the sprite looks, yes, and it's just a thing you'll see with Magneto often. It's an artistic choice for his design, but it really works to give him that old look. But when he gets genuinely angry and his wrath builds up enough to just roar overpower Tetsuo, his eyes go bloodshot red. And when he gets grabbed, his irises show up. This is when he's angry to survive and help Tetsuo. This is his humanity coming forth in the moment he decides, yeah, I gotta help this kid. And the rest of the fight has a normal look, but that makes sense. These changes help get across how he feels in those moments, and otherwise his normal look is perfect for who he is. Though speaking of pupils, I genuinely thought when I first saw this that those were Tetsuo's pupils and Magneto had made him go wall-eyed, which made this really funny shot to me. I now know that those are tears, but the fact that they're here and not where tear ducts normally are and are so thick and opaque sort of confused me for a bit. I don't know if it was intentional also, but Magneto starting off referring to Tetsuo as an impudent child, then at the end of the fight having learned more about Tetsuo and understanding him better, he rethinks of him as a poor child instead. It just feels like a nice sort of character bit for Magneto, starting one way and then realizing the other. And the conclusion is also very solid. It's fun to listen to, I like them going over the stats, I like them going over the countering abilities, and they went really in-depth on the Universal Explosion thing to cover their bases. That was cool. Overall, this is a very solid episode. I enjoyed it a bunch, and there's a very few things I can point out and say are actively bad. Nothing is just abjectly bad. There are some elements in some scenes I find distracting, or some jokes I wasn't fond of, or the track not being as good as the last few, which, he's saying that, Ego Death is a good track. It's got a really nice sound, and it shows how long I've been watching Death Battle that I could listen to the first few notes and immediately know that, oh, that's not a Brandon Yates track, that's a Werewolf Media track. The best part of this track though is how it complements the fight. The techno vaporwave sound fits it too, as that's music I generally see associated with both magnetism and esoteric mindfucks. But it's when things get really fucking chaotic, changing to an epic tone for Tetsuo's transformation that starts hitting me harder. You get that faux chanting, what I describe as Japanese horror music vibes, feeling really powerful even outside the context of the fight, leading back to the normal sound of the track where it finishes off on a somber tone. It's a good track, I just probably won't listen to it much outside of the fight as much as like Breathless Blades or Princes of Pride or the one that I refuse to acknowledge the name of because it's just that bad a name. So that was Magneto vs. Tetsuo. It's a really good episode. It has a lot of minor flaws that don't detract from the overall quality, but many more good highs with a mercy kill that feels so unfitting with the characters. Don't ask me about Heracles vs. Wukong because given my culture and family, I feel really awkward just looking at the discussions about it, and I don't need that anymore. No, I'm not excited. I am a bit upset this is happening. I'm quite a bit upset this is happening, and that is entirely the community's fault. Thank you.
It's such a shame that Charles died of ligma.
Who the hell is Charles?
Ligma balls.
But hey, that's just a theory!
A game theory. Thanks for watching.